All right, welcome back. Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Bullpen Blues. As always, I'm your co-host, Kevin Dixon, joined by our good buddy, David Esser. David, how are we doing tonight?
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday to you.
NFL draft later tonight.
Exactly.
So I think typically people would expect me to be very upset after splitting the series with St. Louis, especially with how today's loss went, right? They lost in extra innings, wild pitch by David Hale. They failed to score with a runner on second. Honestly, Kevin, I'm not feeling too bad.
I feel better about them now than I did on Monday.
I thought they showed some serious grit this week against, again, a good St. Louis Cardinals baseball team.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I feel better than I did Monday, for sure. They definitely showed some fight. I mean, today you're missing two of your better players. I mean, you're missing your superstar. I thought they had showed a lot of fight, battling back. We will get into extra innings because I don't think it's on David Hale. I know a lot of people are ripping him and Girardi. Don't agree with that at all. We will get into that, though.
Yeah, and maybe in a different context, splitting with St. Louis would be viewed differently. I know people really want to consistently get above 500, which is something I've preached, that I'm not going to really buy back into this team until they can show me over a prolonged period of time that they can be an above 500 baseball team. But I thought in a vacuum this week, we saw a fantastic pitching performance from Zach Wheeler. We saw Zach Eflin hang in there all night, battle hard. We saw Aaron Nola pitch pretty well today. He only made the one mistake. He hung a curveball. And we saw the team win Kevin, they won a Vince Velasquez start. In a vacuum, I thought they looked decent. Obviously, they were missing two of their best players today. They were without Bryce for the majority of yesterday's game. In a vacuum, I don't think it was a bad week of baseball.
No, and just to touch on Vince, I think he should get another turn.
So this is a fun topic for me and Kevin. So I've said it on the podcast before, I live in Maryland. I go to school down here, graduating in a couple of weeks, thank God. I'm driving up to Philly to go to a game with Kevin on a Monday.
Bullpen Blues will be in the building.
The Bullpen Blues will be in the building, and we're not sure who's going to start. It could be Vince. It could be Matt Moore. It could be Anibal Sanchez if he signs tomorrow. I don't want to see Vince pitch just because I know what we're going to get with Vince. He'll probably be out of the game by the fifth inning.
I kind of that game will be ridiculous if he's on the mound too.
Yeah, at least I'll get my money's worth, right? I'm driving all the way up there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think he's been better than Matt Moore. That's not saying much. Who else is going to pitch? That's kind of how I'm looking at it,
Anibal Sanchez. They're going to sign him.
Yeah, I mean, is he going to be? Are we going to throw him in some simulated games first?
Yeah,
coming right up.
All right, so we want to talk about the hit by pitch incident, right? Harper smoked in the face. Didi, real quick, minor tidbit. Ruben Amaro Jr., he tweeted out yesterday about Cole Hamels, and this is completely off script.
Yep.
But he mentioned that Cole's not ready to throw, but he kind of alluded at the idea that Cole will be ready to throw at one point. It's just not right now.
He kind of alluded to the fact that he's going to be a Philly.
A little bit.
Without necessarily doing that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting little piece of information there. Anibal Sanchez, the Phillies have seriously looked at him, and it sounds like
both.
Yeah, I mean, what's there to lose at this point? But he's expected to sign with the team here soon. So that could be the Phillies. It could not be. Look, I'm not a big Anibal Sanchez guy, but he's another arm out there. But all right, segue back to the Cardinals.
Yep.
The big storyline, Wednesday night, Harper drilled in the face. Didi on the very next pitch drilled in the ribs. The Phillies, in my opinion, retaliated today. Hector Neris gave Nolan a good one on the back. Kevin, what were your thoughts on the whole fiasco, as one might say?
I want to say that was one of the scariest things I've seen watching baseball. That was just ridiculous. I don't think it was intentional. That doesn't change the fact that Cabrera should have been run from the game. There's no reason that he should have remained in there, especially after he hit Didi. I think it's a big flaw in that 3-batter minimum rule that really, really showed its flaw in that situation, because Mike Schilt even came out and said he would have pulled him after the Harper thing. But just to touch on Harper, how could people not like Bryce Harper? That guy is an absolute warrior. I think it's awesome he's a Philadelphia Philly. He jumped right back to his feet after that, threw his bat and gloves. I mean, how many guys would still be down? You know, he got right to his feet. Of course, he walked off. I mean, there's no way you're going to stay in that game. He has to go through all the tests. It's not 1980 where he probably, might have stayed in there. Uh, man, I mean, just like sending such a message to his teammates, just popping right up. Like, how could you not want to go to war with that guy?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was amazed that he popped up as quickly as
Yeah,
he did. I definitely, it didn't look intentional. With that said, I think there needs to be a better understanding from the umpire's perspective. All right, like this guy's wild right now. He might hurt somebody.
for the safety of the players, he should have been
Yes.
tossed because Didi's was that hurt, dude. He got
Yeah.
thrown right in the rib cage, 97. That definitely hurt.
And that's a guy with well documented kidney issues, kind of taking
Yeah,
a fastball right to the kidney area.
yeah.
Yeah, I think he should have been tossed. The whole double warning thing, and this is something people have talked about for a while. It makes no sense, and I understand they don't want retaliation, but like the Phillies did nothing wrong in that incident, and I love that Joe went out there and showed some energy,
Showed
showed
a
some life.
pulse.
Yeah, showed a pulse. Sam Coonrod in the very next inning was barking at people. I like that type of energy because
Yep.
obviously you can't throw back at the other team now, but you can stick up for your guys a little bit. And I think they did a good job, and I think that's the main reason they won that game
Yep.
is that the team finally kind of picked up the energy. It was like they just killed Bryce Harper. Like we got to win this game for him now.
It could be something that we look back on as a turning point because it really did seem like they pulled together as a unit. Girardi, that was awesome. Uh, so fired up. He finally showed some life. You've been waiting forever for something like that from Joe. Um, I thought maybe he had bought some goodwill back with the fans. Of course, today on Twitter it showed otherwise because people were already calling for his head again. But yeah, that was crazy, man. And to rally and win that ball game, I thought was huge. Hopefully, Bryce is back soon, man. I was fully expecting him to be bruised all in hell, but like Aaron Rowan back after he ran into the wall in '06, I want to say it was, and he was in the press conference with a broken orbital bone. I was fully expecting Bryce's face to just be completely battered. Dude, he looked fine. He looked completely fine. Didn't even look swollen.
Yeah, he posted an Instagram video like
It's like
the
like an
night
hour
of.
later. Yeah.
I don't understand the man. Yeah, it looks like nothing's broken. It looks like nothing's seriously damaged. Obviously, we play the Mets this weekend, so they're going to need Bryce for that series, right? That's a big
Yeah.
one.
I will say because we're going Monday, I will be in the ballpark tomorrow. I'm
Oh,
going. If
you
he
didn't tell me.
if he somehow manages to be in the starting lineup, he's going to get a massive standing ovation from me, for sure. Um, man, yeah. Look, 3-4 on the road trip, not great. But after you start 1-2 against a really bad Colorado team, to go and split with St. Louis, although today hurt for sure. Still though, to split, to kind of salvage that road trip, and to come home with a chance to end the month of April over 500 and in first place potentially, I think there's definitely some positives.
Yeah, and even today's loss was unfortunate, but Kevin, they showed some life. I mean, they had 10 hits with a lineup that looked like a spring training lineup. I mean, we saw Roman hit the ball. Scott Kingery had a hit. Bowman, McCutcheon finally started hitting the baseball. I have an article I'm going to write for tomorrow morning about how some days off might have done them really well. JT was near perfect at the plate. Like I'm okay losing a game once in a while if we're racking up 10 hits. Obviously, the way it ended, not great. They didn't do a good job in extra innings, advancing the
That's an
runner over.
understatement right there, man.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of an understatement, but
Yeah.
seeing them be competitive, and we talked about this last episode, I care more about the process sometimes than I do about the results. I want them to look like a competitive baseball team. You're not going to
Yeah.
win every game. Look, nobody goes 162-0. Very few
Yep.
teams even win 100 games in a season. So seeing them be competitive in a game that they lost, all right, it's okay, but they looked competitive. The bullpen,
Yep.
energy, the at bats were strong. Like that's the type of performance that I think will actually carry over into a very important Met series.
It does, and we just mentioned extra innings. I told you coming on to the show, I had some strong opinions about extra innings, and I just want to get into it, just get it over with. Alec Boehm had a great day until the 10th inning. A lot of people want to point the finger at David Hale and Joe Girardi. I totally agree that he probably shouldn't have been in the game. I get that. He's your mop up guy. I have no idea why he's in there. The Phillies lost that game, David, in the top of the 10th. And it all started with Alec Boehm. Look, I'm not a big fan of the extra inning rule, but it is what it is. That's the rules they're playing under right now. It really puts an emphasis on situational baseball, which the Phillies looked just a mess. You cannot strike out, David, with no outs, guy on second. You have to just your approach or simplify your approach. You need to move that runner. You cannot strike out there. Uh, and just to double down, because Bowman had a nice day, but that really put a dark cloud on it for me because it's unacceptable. I feel very strongly about that. Because a great example is Rhys Hoskins hits a fly ball to center. If you moved runner to third, he probably scores on that fly ball. Arguably, I know he got thrown out at third, but that's something else I want to get into. What the hell was Matt Julius doing? It was a fantastic throw, but why, with JT Realmuto coming to the plate in the top of the 10th, you're in scoring position already. What does the extra 90 feet do for you? Like, I understand, yeah, the Cardinals won on a wild pitch, which is even a bigger reason why you got to move the runner. Matt Joyce probably has a much less chance to score on a wild pitch than Tyler O'Neill. So go in the third there with 2 outs and your best hitter coming up just makes no sense to me. From a 36-year-old veteran as well, certainly expect more than that. That was little league.
Yeah, I texted you right when extra innings started. You got to get JT to the plate.
Yes.
And for them to not do that was frustrating. Kind of big picture. I hope this is more of a learning experience for Bohm than anybody else.
Yeah.
That there's a time and a place to try to make really hard contact in a situation like that. You're right. Look, you just hit the ball to the right side of the infield.
All you need to do, man, ground ball to the right side, and the runner's on third.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could not, and I'm sure Joe told him before he went out there, hey, Alec, get that runner over to third. And it looks like Alec was just like, nah, I'm swinging for the fences. Which,
yeah,
okay, I'm glad he's heating back up a little bit, but you're definitely right.
It just puts a damper on the good day that he had because he doubled last night, and then he comes out today. He had a couple big hits, and it's just like it just really puts a damper on it because he did have himself a nice day up until that point. Yeah, the extra inning rule, it sucks, but situational baseball is important, man, and that's all that extra innings is about.
Yeah, I mean, and it's part of the game right now. They're going to have to find a way to win it. All right, I want to segue into Joe Girardi.
Yep.
Because he is a name who has been public enemy number 1 this season, in my opinion.
Yeah.
On the old Phillies Twitter, and I think it's pretty ridiculous because he's managed now 85 games as a Phillies manager, so just over half a season, and it's clear his roster isn't fully built. It's clear his starting rotation isn't complete. His bench is probably one of the worst in baseball at the moment, and I feel like anytime he makes a decision, and look, he's made bad decisions. We talked about it, I think, 2 or 3 pods ago that he's made some questionable decisions this season, but Kevin, he's made plenty of good decisions too. You look at the way he managed the Vince Velasquez start. It was good bullpen decision after good bullpen decision. He pulled Vince at the perfect time. He used pinch hitters at the perfect time. He navigated around an injured Didi and Bryce Harper who had to lead. You lost your best player. He left the game, and you still managed to win that baseball game. And I feel like it's one of those situations where if Joe does something right, nobody talks about it. But if he does something wrong, everybody talks about it.
For sure. I mean, it's Philly, man. That's just we were talking about it before we got on. For whatever reason, it's almost as if the Super Bowl just made everything, it has to be all or nothing, It's just how it feels with everything. We even see it with the NFL draft tonight with the Birds. It's just like if they don't draft the guy that people want, it's a failure. It's just kind of how it's gone. It's a shame. I've been critical of Girardi as well. It might have even been last episode where I was critical of him. I'm not calling for the guy's job. Like, you know what I mean? Like, do I expect better from him? Of course I do. But like you said, it's 85 games into his stint. I think he's, as a baseball guy and a guy that's, you can say what you want about that World Series. He had a loaded team. Of course he did. They still won. They beat a very good Phillies team then. He's kind of earned a longer leash than what people have given him.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as like culture and fit goes, I don't know if there's many duos that compare to Joe Girardi and Dave Dombrowski on like a clout perspective. Like
It's
these are two huge names, and maybe they're a little past their prime, but I will still like perspective. We didn't even have a GM a few months ago. We didn't even have a coach who worked with the front office on a synergistic level. Like I'm not 85 games into Girardi's career.
yeah,
Like we got to pump the brakes.
for sure. And I mean, for everything that everyone wants to say about this ball club right now, they're right there, David. They're
Yeah.
they're 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 going to be one game out, assuming Atlanta wins tonight. We talked about it last night. They get a lot of flack for being where they are. 11 of the 15 teams in the National League are within 2 games of each other. It's league wide. Teams are still trying to figure out who they are, their identity. Not everybody is the Dodgers, man. We talked about that before as well. For sure, they need to find their identity, but they're not the only team that's still searching for it.
Yeah, and again, like something we talked about last episode, because I ranted pretty hard. I said, one of the things I like about the Dodgers is that they go out and they compete every single night, regardless of
Yep.
the result. A series like this is exactly what I wanted them competing. Every game was close, every game they battled, competitive at bats, good pitches from the bullpen. I don't really care that they went 2-2. They looked like a good baseball team for the majority of the last 4 days.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. And now they're coming home where they play very well.
Yes.
They're facing the Mets team that, for all the hate the Phillies get, even regionally and for whatever reason nationally, because the power rankings can continue to have them considerably lower than the Braves and the Mets, although they're hanging neck and neck with them. They beat them, head to head. I know the Mets won 3 in a row against the Phillies. The Phillies are in a good spot this weekend. The Mets are sputtering as well. They're home. Um, they do have some of that momentum now. I understand they lost today, but like they do have some momentum. Is a good week. They're in a good spot to continue it this weekend. They are, and I understand it's the Mets. I don't care if it was the Dodgers. Let's go win a series this weekend at home.
Yeah, they're going to miss Jacob DeGrom as well, which is
Fantastic. Yeah,
always helpful.
might have been better to get them because they don't score for them anyway.
For real. All right, I want to segue into, we're talking about Girardi, how he gets a lot of flack. I kind of want to talk about a player who I feel like doesn't get criticized ever. And then the one time I do it, I get pushed back for. I want to talk about Rhys Hoskins. And look, I want to make it very clear for anyone who's listening. I enjoy Rhys Hoskins as a baseball player. He's an above average first baseman. He's not bad. And I think people, whenever someone criticizes Rhys, because look, he's beloved by the fan base. He's super, super plugged in with the community. His wife super plugged in with the community. Like people like Rhys Hoskins. He was drafted by the organization. I get it, but it's the same issue that he's had since debuting. He's inconsistent, and there's moments like a couple days ago when he's leading the league in home runs and his OPS is in the high 900s, and everybody loves it. And then there's days like today where he goes 0 for 5. He leaves 4 runners on base. His batting average, Kevin, is now down into the 230s. His OPS is about to plummet back into the 700 range. Like, is this a good first baseman who you can win baseball games with? Yes, absolutely. We've seen it. Is he an undisputed all-star home run leader candidate, part of this core where you need him on your baseball team to win a championship? There's no evidence to suggest that that's the case.
Look, maybe I'm out of touch, but like I guess you named some good points, but I don't understand the fascination with him, and I don't dislike Rhys Hoskins. I'm just not as in love with him as most of the fan base are. So I would agree with you.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to the idea of I think he's an above average first baseman. He's got some serious pop. He's a horrific defender, which brings his WAR down every single year. But he's up and down. I think sometimes people, like we saw a couple days ago when he hit 2 home runs, in the Zach Wheeler start, people were over the moon, and they're talking about him like he's the greatest first baseman in MLB history. And then a couple days passed, and he's a lot of strikeouts, a lot of guys left on base. He's putting the balls in the outfield, but they're not falling for hits. You turn around and you're like, all right, so he's not exactly all that. But he's not bad either. He's somewhere in the middle, and that's okay. That's not a slight on Hoskins.
For sure. I mean, I agree with you. I think people just overvalue him. Tell you what, if he can continue the pop that he has right now and he can start walking a little bit more, and look, I've been someone who wanted him to swing the bat more, so I can't really double down and just crush him for not walking because that would be very hypocritical of me. Because look, he is more aggressive this year, but if he can maintain some of this power and just walk just a little bit more, just a little bit more, David, he could end up being a very good offensive player. Which I already think he's a good offensive player. He's a guy who can carry it for stretches, but you're right, he just needs to be more consistent as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the key point is I don't think his development is done. I don't look at Rhys Hoskins and I say that's a finished product. I think there's more to be milked out of that position, especially batting in front of Bryce Harper where he gets to see a ton of pitches. But there's more to be had. His average has got to go up. His on-base percentage has got to go up. You would prefer more consistency. His defense, which fingers crossed it gets better. It's probably not going to, but above average player. He's not, the second coming of Ryan Howard, which I think a lot of people are still hell bent on forcing him into that mold of a guy who's going to give you 50 home runs.
Yeah, and I wouldn't count on his defense because I think he's going to.
Neither would I.
He's going to be DHing when that inevitably comes to the National League.
All right, switching gears here.
Yep.
A position that gets criticized a lot outside of Joe Girardi is center field, which, they pulled the trigger this week. They brought up Odubel Herrera. We've talked about Odubel on this podcast before. We're not diving back into that mess again. But they've really shot every bullet here, Kevin. First it was Hazley. That was their initial plan. Obviously, he opted out for reasons unknown. Hopefully he's doing okay. They hoped Scott Kingery would hang around. He couldn't crack the opening day roster. They tried Roman Quinn. Obviously, we know what Roman Quinn is. They tried Mickey Moniak. He wasn't doing too hot. They're trying Odubel Herrera. He's not doing too hot. Kevin, they haven't figured it out yet.
They have not. And Odubel as a player, I don't think 4 games is enough because he's your last option, really. I mean, this is the 4th guy they've put out there. He needs a little bit more of a leash than 4 games, but it's not been a good start. They need him to just. You know what stinks is he made really good contact his last at bat. That ball was hit hard right at the shortstop. I guess the good thing is he's not striking out a ton, but it's not really helping them. He's been stranding runners. He stranded a couple today. I think he had 3 or 4 left on. Just the fact that this is their 4th guy that they're trying out there, I would not be surprised if Kingery's in center tomorrow, considering he had a hit tonight. Would not be shocked if he's starting tomorrow in center. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the last resort before they have to inevitably, make a move to bring somebody else in. But especially with Odubel, with all the against it, I want to say, people were against bringing him up. He needs to produce, or it's just going to get louder and louder and louder. So the pressure's on. He's got to start hitting.
Yeah, and you mentioned external options. They did sign Brian Cordell, career 202 hitter with a negative
WAR.
Yeah, so not great. He's had stints.
Right on brand at center field here.
He's had stints with the White Sox. He played a little bit with the Mets last year. They signed him to a minor league deal, so he's another maybe internal option they look to give a shot before turning to the trade market. Kevin, they're going to make a trade before the trade deadline. It's just a matter of, can you bridge the gap over the next month or 2 before you have to pull the trigger and give up assets?
I also, just in terms of Odubel, I also feel like they're really, really hoping that he can capture 75% of the player he used to be, just so they don't have to give up assets to trade for a center fielder, although I think they still probably need to anyway. But they're definitely really counting on him to produce a little bit, because Joe Girardi even said he's going to probably play in center field every day.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have any other good options.
I'll say this too, though. Even if he's on the bench, with how weak their bench is, I think it improves it, because the fact today, I understand they were missing Didi and Bryce, that Andrew Knapp's your first pinch hitter off the bench. Not great. Not great. He should probably be the last guy you use.
Yeah, and then this is a tad off topic, but we're talking about the bench. Matt Joyce has been pretty underwhelming in that spot. I
would have preferred him over Knapp in that spot in the 7th.
Probably, yeah.
Personally, and then we wouldn't have had that blunder at second base. That was bad. That was so bad.
I think they said they wanted a righty at the plate, and Knapp can switch hits. I think that's why they did it. But yeah, overall, not the bench is not good, Kevin.
Newsflash: Andrew Knapp stinks. So I mean,
he's been decent this year. Come on now.
he had 140.
He's got a couple RBIs though.
Yeah,
He catches a good game once. No, you're not. Yeah, they
he's not a bad game caller. I'll say that he's not bad, and he's with my guy Eflin. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. All right. The NFL draft starts in a couple of minutes, so we're gonna wrap this thing up because I got some.
Who they taking, David? Who we got?
Oh, who are the Eagles taking?
Of course, yeah.
I put in my final mock Kwity Paye.
Seems like the popular pick today.
And I know everybody wants Devontae Smith. I know everybody wants.
He might go to the Giants.
He could. Why not? Right? Give him some weapons. And
I work with my office. I have a lot of people from North Jersey, and I have a lot of Giants fans, a lot of Yankee fans, Mets. Mm-hmm. They want Devontae Smith. At least the ones that I've talked to. They one, they keep him away from the birds. That was a big thing there. And two, they're like, he's just explosive. The Heisman winner, greatest season ever. Remember after he blew up in the national title game, people were like, he might not even make it to 6.
Yeah.
Very possibly makes it out of the top 10 now. It's funny how the NFL draft works. You just knew those quarterbacks were going to shoot up the board.
Yeah. And look, here's the thing. Nobody knows anything. Like,
yeah,
I love me some mock drafts, but nobody knows. Yeah, I don't think Howie's going to pass on the opportunity to take a Michigan defensive end as the first edge off the board. Like that's oof.
Didn't he not even have a sack last year?
Yeah, I think he had a few. It's Jason Owe who didn't have a sack from Penn State. All right, whatever with the Eagles. This is the Phillies. This is a Phillies podcast, so we don't talk about the birds on here. Kevin, we're looking ahead to the Mets. You're going to be in the ballpark tomorrow. How you feeling playing New York again?
Well, just in terms of me going to the games, who's it, Anderson tomorrow? I'm stuck with my guy, the ace, Chase Anderson
the ace
tomorrow.
Of the staff.
And then I got to see Vince Velasquez or Matt Moore Monday. I mean, what the hell was I thinking? You know how I operate. Get out of April at 500 or better. 2 of 3 this weekend is a must. Anytime you play the division, you need to take 2 or 3. I can't wait till we start playing the Nats and the Marlins. How the hell do we keep getting stuck with the Mets and the Braves?
Yeah, and honestly, it's not the worst thing because they're not playing well. Let's get these games.
Sure, yeah. Now
out of the way early.
Be the time, then you can beat up on the stinking Nats. They stink.
Yeah, they're not great. Yeah, hopefully we get Bryce back this weekend. Hopefully we get Didi back this weekend.
We didn't even touch on because I was texting you about it. It's such a shame that Didi had to leave that or he didn't play today. He was fantastic defensively in that game last night.
Yeah.
He made some really good plays, and for how critical we've been of him defensively because he hasn't been good, he was damn good last night.
And I don't want to go on too much of a ramble here, but the vibe I'm kind of catching with this team is that some of these guys are going to start picking it up here soon. Bohm's not going to hit 200 the whole
season yet, man.
Yeah, Kutch isn't going to be hitting 150 the whole season. Didi's not going to be the worst defensive shortstop in baseball the whole season.
Odubel's not going to go over. He's going to get hit one of these days. He's going.
We say that, and sometimes that's not the case. Roman Quinn had his second hit tonight.
Doesn't matter. He was playing right field. It doesn't count.
You're right. That doesn't count. But so I do feel like some of these guys are going to turn it around. Hopefully Didi comes back healthy and shape, feeling good at shortstop still. Because you're right. Him figuring it out defensively, that helps the team a lot.
Yeah, he made some really good plays last night.
He did.
Yeah. So we'll see. And just one fun stat before we go. Roman Quinn has more stolen bases this year than hits. Sorry, it's about to start storming here. I don't know if you can hear that, but more stolen bases this year than hits for Roman Quinn. Ridiculous.
I mean, it depends how you word it, right? Because if Roman had a lot of hits, but more, maybe he has 100 hits and 101 stolen bases. That'd be pretty cool.
He only has 3 hits, though.
All right, yeah, we'll end it on that. Roman Quinn, 3-hit season. All right, yeah, we're gonna head off to the NFL draft here. Go watch the Eagles.
We'll be back Sunday. I would assume Sunday night.
We'll be back Sunday night after, again, hopefully a successful Mets series. If you're not already subscribed to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you go do that. Also, check out our YouTube page. The views have been upticking there, so we very much appreciate you guys tuning in. We have some some plans with a YouTube channel coming here shortly. You can check us out on Twitter. You can check us out on our Facebook page. Every single one of those links will be in the description down below. Again, we're going to be back here Sunday night after a fun little sweep over the New York Mets.
Yeah.
We are the Bullpen Blues podcast, and we will talk to y'all in a couple of days.
Go Phils.